buried memories. Just relax and focus on my voice. Breathe deeply as your body gets heavier. The hypnotist's soothing words floated through my mind as I settled into the reclining chair and closed my eyes. I had come to undergo hypnosis to try recalling memories from my early childhood. Trauma from that period had left gaps that therapy couldn't penetrate. We hoped hypnosis could safely unlock those lost years. As the hypnotist guided me into a trance state, I felt my mind grow pleasantly fuzzy, like sinking into a warm bath. She led me to mentally descend a set of 10 steps into a peaceful chamber where I could access subconscious memories. At first, gentle recollections bubbled up, the lace curtains in our kitchen, playing with matchbox cars on the patio, my mother's lavender perfume. The hypnotist urged me to go deeper, to push past the haze obscuring my youngest memories. I followed her calming voice down into layers of my mind I had never consciously reached. Then, images burst forward that made me recoil. My father towering above me, purple with rage. Fists pounding my mother, her screams piercing the night. A closet door being ripped open as I huddled inside. The stench of whiskey as my father bellowed curses. A rush of long-buried terror flooded my veins. The hypnotist's voice cut through the visceral memories. We've gone far enough for today. I'm going to count back from 10, and you'll wake up feeling refreshed. As she counted, the dark visions faded. My eyes blinked open and I saw her smiling reassuringly. How do you feel? She asked. I hesitated before answering. The glimpses of abuse in my lost childhood had been jarring, but also strangely validating. My gut had always suspected some early trauma lay behind my anxiety issues. I told her I felt a sense of relief at starting to uncover answers. Over the next week, however, the flickers of memory unlocked by hypnosis continued to haunt me. Walking down a street, the smell of stale beer would morph into my father's rancid, drunk breath looming above me. A door slamming would become the crack of his fist against my mother's fragile body. Vivid flashbacks intruded while I tried working or conversing with friends. I'd find myself suddenly back in the darkened closet, my child self gripped with terror, unable to stop the visceral memories assaulting my senses before they passed. I started losing sleep, afraid of where my mind would take me at night. At my next hypnosis session, I shared my concerns. The hypnotist suggested we not probe deeper for now until I had integrated the initial recalled memories from my early years. We would focus on reinforcing the positive recovered moments. I agreed, hoping to avoid triggering more unsettling childhood visions for the time being. I left feeling calmer. That night though, the lurid memories returned with a vengeance. Lying in bed, the shadows around me warped into looming figures. I felt phantom blows landing on my arms raised in self-defense. My father's alcohol-soaked vitriol rang in my ears. I hunched whimpering until sunrise banished the vivid flashbacks. In the harsh light of morning, I was unnerved by the previous night's hallucinatory memories. I realized I needed to process them with my therapist right away. I sent her a message requesting an emergency session. At her office later, I described the increasingly immersive recall I experienced of the abuse gleaned through hypnosis. I can't switch it off, I told her, hands shaking. It feels like I'm right back there reliving it all as a kid. But it's not just during flashbacks now, the memories are bleeding into my everyday life. My therapist looked concerned as she took notes. Suppressed memories can be powerful, but we need to ensure they don't consume you. For now, avoid any triggers that enhance the flashbacks. We'll also increase your anxiety medication dosage. I nodded, clinging to her rational suggestions like a life preserver. Leaving her office, I felt momentarily steadied. I could overcome this. The memories were just my mind's way of working through past trauma. I would wrest back control. But that night, all control slipped away in a harrowing flashback. This time, I was locked in the closet by my father, pounding and screaming to no avail. The walls closed in on me until I could barely breathe. Outside, my mother wailed in pain and I sobbed, helpless to aid her. It felt terrifyingly real. I jolted awake drenched in sweat, heart hammering. Dark shapes still loomed around me. I had to get out. Stumbling downstairs to gulp water, faint light through the windows washed everything in a gloomy haze, like my childhood prison. My hands wouldn't stop trembling. Over the next week, the living nightmare refused to abate. At the follow-up hypnosis session, my mind recoiled violently from descending into any trance state. The hypnotist quickly brought me out of it. I apologized, ashamed by my loss of control. "You've been through a lot. We should pause hypnosis for now," she said with professional concern. I left feeling like a failure, my psyche too fragile to withstand delving into my own buried past. The flashbacks now came unbidden, replacing reality at random times. A passing ambulance siren became my mother's anguished screams as my father pummeled her. At the grocery store, proof of my father's violence bruised like shadows across her face in place of the serene woman on boxes of laundry soap. No person or place felt safe from the graphic memories hijacking my vision. At my therapist's urging, I checked myself into a psychiatric ward under voluntary observation. I knew I needed help. Maybe medication could mute the ceaseless flashbacks so I could regain my grip on reality. But in my assigned room that first night, the panic attacks returned full force. Labyrinthine hospital corridors morphed into the tangled maze of my childhood home, each hall holding new horrors. Nurses trying to soothe me became my abusive, raging father. I lashed out at their attempts to restrain me during episodes when I was back trapped in that trauma. After days of fitful delirium, I sank into despair. The psychiatric drugs had failed to blunt my brain's twisted conjurings dredged up by hypnosis. As I lay spent in my hospital bed, the room's shadows seemed to creep and contort into jagged shapes. I knew then the thing I feared most: I was lost in the haunted maze of my own broken mind. A final series of brutally vivid hallucinations gripped me that night. My father stalked me through each abandoned wing of the hospital, appearing in guises of doctors or orderlies as I tried frantically to escape. But each door I threw open revealed some new horror from my buried past. I cowered as phantom blows rained down on me, now a terrified child unable to make sense of my father's venomous anger. The orderly who restrained me became my father's meaty fists squeezing the breath from my body. My mother's pleas for mercy echoed all around, magnifying my panic. There was nowhere to run, no escape from the sadistic maze of my own warped psyche. At last, something in me fully snapped. I simply couldn't bear to be trapped in those hellish memories one more second. When the orderly next approached with a syringe, I lunged wildly, my hands closing around his throat. My father's face blurred above me, eyes bulging as I squeezed harder, growling through gritted teeth. Finally, the man's terrified eyes dimmed and his body went limp beneath my rigid hands. I collapsed in a heap on the cold tile, manic laughter bursting from my raw throat. Rocking slowly, I gazed around with detached calm at the silent hospital hallway. The only father now was the white-coated corpse at my feet. The monster haunting my past was gone for good. My unhinged laughter echoed through the empty ward. Somewhere far off, rushing footsteps approached and panicked voices shouted. But they couldn't touch me any longer. I had finally beaten my father at his own savage game. Deeper into my maze I would go, there were no more horrors left to fear. I crawled into a darkened room and slid the lock firmly shut behind me. Here in the still darkness, nothing could hurt me now. Let them try to find me here, I would never leave my safe maze again.